Hi there. So I am doing the presentation for problem 7-8A, in which we're asked to prepare a cash budget for January and February. So to get started, the first thing that we need to do is establish for what period we're preparing the cash budget, and that is stated right here, January and February. So I selected for the 2 months ending February 28th, 2017. So to get started, what we want to do is establish our beginning cash balance. Now, at the very start, we're only going to be able to do that with January because we haven't found out February's beginning cash balance yet. So it does tell us right here that company's cash balance on January 1st, 2017 is expected to be 48,500. So we go ahead and plug that in. Now, the next section of what we're going to do is add our cash receipts and less out our cash disbursements. And we will find these up in our instruction area. So the first thing that we want to do, our first instruction here is collection from customers. January, we find that we have 333,600 collections, and February 378,700. So we go ahead and plug that in right here. Notes receivable is our next addition to the cash receipts area. So right here, we're going to find that in the month of January, we actually collect a notes receivable for 17,400. We do not collect a notes receivable in February, so that will remain 0. Next thing that we're going to add is our sales of security. Now this one does occur in February, not January. So again, we'll place a 0 in January and 5,500 in the February column. So at this point, we can actually total our receipts here, and we'll add these values together to get 351,000. And over here, we'll value these three and get 384,200. And in January, we can now establish our total available cash. Now in February, in order to do that, we would have to have our beginning cash balance, which we have not yet found out. But we do have our January, so we'll add to 351,000, 48,500, which will give us 399,500. Now we are going to go ahead and find our cash disbursements. The first thing that we are going to add to this area is our payments for purchases. January 100,300, February 144,000, and we will place these values respectively in their columns. Next is our salaries, and in our salaries we'll actually find them up here. So 84,400, and in February 81,900. So we come down here and plug those those values in here. Next, our administrative expenses. Here's kind of an interesting one. Our administrative expenses are in January 70,000 and in February 73,400. However, down here you'll notice, excuse me, you'll notice that there are some depreciations going on. So right here it states all other expenses are paid in the month incurred except for administrative expenses, which include 1,500 of depreciation per month. So we'll have to adjust the values for that, and we would just simply subtract 1,500 from both of these, and that will actually give us 68,500 in January and 71,900 in February. Next is our selling expenses, and we find these values right here, 78,300 in January, 87,400 in February, and we go ahead and plug those in. Next is our dividends. We find our dividends right here at the bottom. Other disbursements, February, not January, but in February, we found that we left out 12,300 cash for dividends. So in January, we'll leave our dividends 0, but in February, we will add that 12,300. Now, at this point in the process, we can sum together our total disbursements. So we'll add together these values to get 331,500. And over here in February, we'll total 397,500. So at this point, we'll be able to determine our excess or deficiency of available cash over disbursements by subtracting our total available cash, by subtracting our total disbursements from our total available cash. So 331,500 subtracted from 399,500, which will give us 68,000. Now here it's important to note that the company wants to maintain a minimum cash balance of $65,000. And we here, as you can see, are about 3,000 over. So our next section is financing, whether or not we need to borrow or repay any of these debts. So in borrowing, we don't need any sort of financing because we already are over $3,000. And repayment, same thing, we'll leave that value 0. So our ending cash value will just be our excess of 68,000. Now here at this point, what we'll do is copy this value right here and add it into our February beginning cash. At this point, now we can add our beginning cash balance in February to our total receipt and get our total available cash in the month of February, which would be $452,200. Next, we will subtract from our total available cash our total disbursements for the month of February, which would be $397,500. And this will give us an excess of $54,700. Now again, it's important to note that the company wants to maintain a minimum cash balance of $65,000. If you notice, we're at $54,700, which would make us $10,300 short. So in our financing, we are going to borrow $10,300, leave our repayment 0, same as January, and we'll have an ending cash balance of $65,000 by ending our borrowing $10,300 to our $54,700 excess in the month of February. And that is problem 7-8A in Wiley.